Hello, everybody. It's 7:32 p.m. Central Time on the 14th of June, 2023. It's Wednesday here in the United States. Hope you're doing well. It's been like 6 days since I've done a video where I'm talking, and did a video yesterday with that volcano tornado. Got taken down today with third and potential first-party copyright claims. People not wanting me to show that. Well, a lot of people not wanting me to show a lot of stuff going on, and I got something to say to everybody. Go over and check my community page. I made a post in regards to all of the naysaying and denial that I've been dealing with, having to do with the fires, the volcanoes, and I've been distinctly lacking earthquake content for the last couple weeks, as earthquakes of any significant size currently have stopped. Nothing above a 5.9 for weeks on end. Well, we had a 6 in North Japan, 1-6 in weeks' time. While all this is going on, take a look at the screen. This is all smoke coming down here across the United States. That's all smoke. Take a look at that coming down from the north out of Canada, getting drawn over all of the states from Texas, across Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, South and North Dakota, eastern Montana, Wisconsin. I'll just name all the states, right? Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, over to the east, Ohio, up into the northeast, southeast, Quebec, Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, and the list goes on. Oh, Arkansas? You could say Arkansas and Tennessee have a little bit, but you could see it. This is up to current right here at sunset. Now, all the fires coming from the north, coming out of Canada. People telling me it's all clear up in Canada today. Wow. Wow. Looking pretty clear up there. Yeah, that's last night. Here's sunset last night. Here's sunrise this morning. Let's take a look at that clear day, see what you got going on up there. Looking pretty darn clear over there, over to the east across Saskatchewan. Across Alberta and BC, you can see down in there in the valleys. That's all smoke down in there, looking real clear. Real clear there, right through there. Yeah, it's looking all real clear. Let's go look at the shortwave infrared and see if we can see anything throughout the day today. And I'm seeing a bunch of black dots out in there. Wow, a lot of... see all those lines going across there? That's cloud seeding being done. They're cloud seeding that storm big time. Look at that throughout the day. And up. Unfortunately, guys, you still got the fires going up in there in BC as well. So, that being said, what's with all the people trying to say it's normal and regular and everything when we don't have any examples in my entire lifetime? I'm 47 years old. Of the United States being fully covered by smoke coming from another country. So we shouldn't downplay it or deny it, but the fact that people are is getting a little weird. It's starting to make me think that maybe something weird is going on, whereas I would have just thought it was fires. But with the weirdness going on with the denial, I'm starting to think maybe there might be something a little bit more to this than just the fires themselves, even though, again, when you talk about here, all the way down across the United States, and over on the West Coast, and down in Mexico. So, down in Mexico, we have something else going on that I have to show you. Let's go look at our regional sectors down in Mexico. And we'll just take it back throughout the day to day. For instance, here we are going, here's middle of the day, and then boom, look at that. So, all of this is smoke. All of this is smoke, and all of this is smoke going up across central and northern Mexico. And then we go up to the North Mexico, and we have fires right at the border blowing over into New Mexico up here and Arizona and Texas, of course. So here's throughout the day to day. You get the picture for the smoke. Smoke is all down here along the coast, coming from further down to the south where you can't even really see. To see that, we have to go down and look at the Yucatan Peninsula down in South Mexico. And then what you'll see is throughout the day, the smog and smoke build up, and boom, there we go. Now, if I turn on shortwave infrared, you'll see down in Mexico there are so many fires. There are these little black dots that are all across the screen over here. This is the current image. Here we are throughout the day, and they're flickering on and off like Christmas lights. Again, you'd have to have a full screen image to see this, how many there are, but there's just hundreds of them, okay? And it's not up for debate. They're there. They're visible on visible satellite. So let's go and look on the West Coast and just take a quick look at the visible and see if there's anything going on the West Coast. We know we've got fires, for instance, over in Arizona and in New Mexico, here and here. But I'm looking on the West Coast out in California just in case. Now, there were some people disputing the fires that I showed out in California, saying that they didn't exist. Well, I mean, there was smoke. Smoke visible on satellite. Now, whether or not they're controlled burns or regular fires or whatever you want to call them, irrelevant to me. I'm showing you the fires in each spot. If they get control burns, get out of control real quick when you do them on red flag high wind days. Why would they do control burns on red flag high wind days? Anyway, let's go and look up on the further west coast up to the northwest and see if there's anything going on across Montana or Idaho. It's a lot of cloud cover, so it'll be a little hard to see. You see all the smoke over to the east. That was this morning at sunrise. Here's sunrise this morning. Here's sunset now. And the smoke is over to the east. We got the rotating low pressure system here, which is going to keep things pretty fluid with the wind. As we go back up to the north, go look at our regional sectors over to the east, for instance, in Quebec. Here's the smoke. By the way, here's last night. So you can see huge areas burning here in Quebec over to the east. We also have Labrador also getting in the mix now with fires. You can see the black dots going over into Labrador, Newfoundland. And here we are today. So the fires are still going down inside of all that. No doubt about that. This is all smoke. This is all smoke mixed in with the clouds. And then over to the east, we have fires down in, like I said, Labrador and Newfoundland that you can barely see here because of the cloud cover. Okay, all right. Well, I mean, that's a lot just going on. You could see them down here in central Quebec. Somebody tried to tell me these were boreal fires for the far Arctic North, and they don't take care of them. I was shocked to find out that central and south Quebec, right at the U.S. border, is boreal north. Shocked to hear that the Arctic North comes down that far. I guess the planet really did shift. Right? If these are boreal fires here, then the boreal forest of the Arctic have come. Now we're right here at the U.S. border with the boreal. I mean, it's amazing. Let's go and look across Saskatchewan, if we can even see down to the ground throughout the day today. Here we are at sunrise, probably the clearest part of the day, and then boom, throughout the day today. Down to the south, United States. So here's Minnesota, and here's North and South Dakota. Over to the east, you've got Michigan. Now, why am I making a big deal even about the fires? Well, they're happening along the edge of the craton, west, south, and east, including Mexico, down through the south, going along the bent edge of the deformed craton, down through Arizona, down through New Mexico, south side, down here in Mexico. A couple days ago, over here at Pinacate Volcanic Field, a steam event was going on, clouds forming over the center of the volcanic field in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, and the only spot where clouds were. So we've got a lot going on, and I got to pay attention to the fires, because the plate could be releasing heat down below, which could be then causing methane release up above, and then methane at the surface moves a rock, gets a spark, and we get fires. That's just one possibility. Could also be magma. But if it was magma, I would think we'd have heat signatures much greater. I would think heat from far down below would heat the frozen methane deposits in the ground, which would then come up to the surface, move a few rocks, get a few sparks, and next thing you know, you got a fire. That's the most likely cause to me, if they're along the edge of the craton. Either that or a directed energy weapon of some kind, which I don't even want to get into. The amount of smoke is insane. Again, to try and say that this is normal is not normal when we've never had it happen in my entire lifetime. Never once in my entire life, living here in St. Louis, Missouri, have we ever had worries for multiple weeks on end of massive smokeouts in the upper atmosphere and lower coming right down to ground level, making things smoggy and smoky at a ground level, coming from far north Canada, or any other country for that matter, including down in Mexico doing the same thing. If you add in Canada and Mexico together with the amount of smoke coming together, both over the United States, it's insane. Again, this is the current shot now. You can see it down in Mexico. You can see it up in Canada. You can see it coming over to the east. The only spots where we have a few clear spots are over here on the west coast, and even that is up for debate. If we go in and look really close, you'll see down in the LA basin, some of that smoke is making its way and settling into the valleys, making it extremely smoggy. I don't even know if you'll see it at this angle. So the fires in Mexico going up across the southern states. There's only a few spots in the whole United States where we don't have insane smoke. In light of the other things going on along the edge of the plate, I cannot overlook it, cannot dismiss it. What's going on along the rest of the plate? That gets into the earthquake update. Lack of earthquakes. Lack of reporting of earthquakes or actual lack of large earthquakes. Which do we want to go with? Either they're taking all the 6.0 or greater level earthquakes down to 5.8s and 5.9s, or do we literally stopped with 6.0 level activity, getting 1.6 in the last 2 weeks? Since the 8 struck and I nailed 3 different earthquake locations, the earthquakes stopped of significant size. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to come back. That's a double negative. I am not saying that we are going to be absent from earthquakes, large earthquakes, for a long time. I'm watching just like you are, wondering what's going on. Is it lack of reporting, or is it actual lack of large earthquake activity? USGS says 2 to 3 6.0s per week. 2 weeks with just one? That's 6s. Okay, so we start getting into a long period of time without any large earthquake activity. It looks weird or suspicious to someone who watches all the time. And we're told that, again, I was told, as a way to downplay the large earthquake activity that was happening in large successions, multiple clusters of large 6s, 7s, and 8s, that when that's happening, they're telling me, oh, there's 3 or 4 per week, Dutch. And I say, well, yeah, okay, well, what happens when we go 2 or 3 weeks without any? That's suspicious, so where do we watch? We watch between our sets of deep earthquakes. That's the only thing I can tell us to watch for now, in light of the lack of large earthquakes, in light of the lack of even 5s even spreading out, that either we're not getting the full feed and it's fully fake, which is possible, or things are building into an extremely large earthquake in between our deeps. And then that just means we watch right here, the halfway point between our sets of deeps. And if this is the deep activity in the last 48 hours, that's where we watch. You see it. They're raised high off the globe. We have to go back 6 days to get another deep earthquake. So that, too, is odd, the lack of deep earthquakes. Now, there can be man-made systems which I think could suppress seismic activity, but it would be more like holding a spring down that eventually you're going to have to let up, and it's going to spring load back up and spring back up. That a man-made system could suppress earthquake activity globally if it was a powerful enough system, let's just say on this level of CERN or something, that level of power could possibly affect earthquakes globally. But suppression would be cancellation or absorption of VLF waves. Absorption of VLF waves. Taking it in. Making it disappear, quote unquote. Well, like a receiving antenna, Earth would be taking in all this VLF. But then I would think, as a response, we would get something coming back up. Like, what rises? What rises? Let's see. There's certain things which rise. I think heat is one of them. Just a guess. So, getting into the quakes that have been reported now. We have 5s north of New Zealand on the plate boundary. Let me show you the plate boundaries because the plate boundaries matter. Again, if you're a new viewer, you must look now. Oh yeah, let's get in there on Firefox. Right, okay. You need to look now at the red lines between the sets of plates. These red lines are the plate boundaries. Now, the wave, which comes up from down below, down with the deep earthquakes, spreads out and drops off our large earthquakes along the way, all the way out and away from where it comes up. It comes up with the deep quakes that are raised high off the globe here. And then we look out and away from the deep quakes for shallower, larger earthquakes to spread. So spreading down to the south, fives. A more recent 5 and a cluster of 5s reported on the plate boundary at the Kermadec Islands. This is down just north of New Zealand here, right where the red dot is. Over to the west, I would expect a new swarm of 5s to break out as well between these two sets of quakes. This puts the Solomon Islands back in the mix for a new spread to take place. It's a big open silent zone at Vanuatu going up into the Solomon Islands here. So watch from New Caledonia to Solomon Islands, in the middle, Vanuatu, that's where we watch. New swarm of 5s. Just like the swarm of 5s going on down to the south. Down in New Zealand, same thing, Kaikoura should see a new 5. So this is in between Wellington and Christchurch. We should see a new 5 in the next few days. As we go up to the north, we're playing with 5s because we don't have any reports of large earthquakes. If that changes, I will cancel this warning completely for all the locations and reassess everything if we get actual reports of quakes. I think World War III is taking place, or about to. And so the seismic information I'm getting is likely either fully fake or going through 1,000 filters from every agency in the world, and every private seismo is either going to be off, manipulated, censored, or not trustworthy. I don't trust anything right now in light of current events. The only thing I would have trusted would have been the seismic feeds, but once I figured out that they could change in fake earthquakes, man, it kind of changed everything. So, and yeah, they can, they do. Sometimes they don't even report them. Okay, anyway, let's go up to the north. Multiple 4s spreading out, going up towards Japan, where our 6 struck at the start of the week, the only 6 in the past 2 weeks, basically. And on the north side is where we're going to watch. The north side of what? Hold on. The north side of these 2 earthquakes, the halfway point between the quakes in Alaska and the quakes down here at the Izu Ridge in Taiwan. The halfway point between the two puts us right back here on North Japan. Another 6 incoming, or 5.9. A 5.9 is incoming. Again, I'm not going to issue a warning for anything 6+, because are they going to report it? Are they going to change every 6 down to a 5.9? Come on, man. It's getting weird. If I was doing it, everybody would call me out. They'd be like, Dutch, you're changing all the 6s to be 5.9s. What's going on? And I'd be like, well, science, man, 5.9. You know, it sounds way more sciencey. Anyway, let's go over to the east, over to Alaska, where new outbreak took place in the middle of the Aleutians. Over to the east, we have a new outbreak over along the coast next to Kodiak, and a spread of earthquakes going all the way up to the north, going all the way next to our pumping operations southwest of Prudhoe Bay. And I caught a video from Eric Hecker. You guys, he's up in Alaska, I think. Eric Hecker at the Disclosure event. Now, I don't know where you stand on the Disclosure thing. I'm not a UFO guy or anything like that, but he spoke at the Disclosure event talking about his work down at Antarctica and the VLF array neutrino detector, which is also a VLF antenna, the world's biggest, in the shape of a hexagon. Now, why does that matter if it's in the shape of a hexagon and it's a VLF array? Well, I don't know. Let me show you. Down here in Australia, Azay, take a look. Here at the pinnacle tip of Exmouth, Alaska, or Exmouth, Australia, we have a hexagon VLF array there for submarine communication. So I was shocked to see the graphic that he showed a hexagon array down in the ice with multiple kilometer long antennas that go down into the ground for neutrino detecting. Well, it turns out it also transmits. Ooh, nothing go wrong there. Nothing go wrong there. No. Nothing go wrong with transmission of VLF. Oh, wait, Mother Earth is transmitting VLF through the plates, electromagnetically, too. Piezoelectric, however you say it. Going through the plates, VLF, from the core. So, We get VLF from man-made facilities, and they have these antennas above the ground in Alaska, or I'm sorry, in Australia. Dude up in Alaska just spoke on the event, the disclosure, talking about how it's affecting the people that work down here at the South Pole. The array being so close to it while it's operational. They tell us VLF doesn't affect people at a ground level. I don't know, there's a whole X-Files episode about this one. There really is. There's an X-Files episode. I remember this from being a teenager watching it. The X-Files episode starts out, this guy is having a high-speed chase with the police. Or the police are chasing a guy in his car driving really fast. The guy will not stop. They finally manage to corner him, and they stop his car. The guy starts moving around in the car, and then all of a sudden, his head detonates. Not from a bomb. The whole X-Files episode, it's an X-Files episode, so it's fiction. Whole X-Files episode is about what caused this guy to have this problem in the car. And they traced him back to Michigan, the guy in the X-Files episode, to living in Michigan somewhere. And in his backyard was a portion of a U.S. Naval VLF antenna buried in the ground, used for submarine communication around the planet. And that the VLF antenna was causing a resonance that went into this guy's head, and it vibrated and got stuck in his head, the resonance. And the only way he could stop the vibration or alleviate it was by moving across a large distance very fast, like a VLF wave. And if he stopped, it would build in his head, and if he kept moving, it would at least be alleviated through the movement of physical movement through time and space. And the episode ends with them panning out on the backyard of the guy, and the antenna still functioning. After they made their findings and reported the cause of the guy. Now, I know it's an X-Files episode, but in light of Eric Hecker's testimony about people down there having major problems health-wise, including major head problems, including stroke, that maybe the X-Files episode was based on a true story that we never heard about. And maybe it was an exaggeration with the head detonating, and that it would just cause major reverberation in your head, Schumann resonance, and you start going crazy or hearing voices or losing your hair, that kind of stuff. Why does all this matter? VLF and earthquakes. Absorption of VLF. VLF rectennas. Did you know there's such a thing called a rectenna? R-E-C-T-E-N-N-A. Look it up. A rectenna. It receives radio waves and turns it into power. NASA did a rectenna experiment where they transmitted a ton of power across over a mile with no wires and built these rectennas out of little microwave antennas like in your cell phone. I have the video on my YouTube channel, which I will show you right now. Why does it matter with a rectenna? Well, a rectenna takes the radio wave, the vibrating radio wave, it hits the antenna, goes down the antenna, and goes into what's called a gallium arsenide diode. And that gallium arsenide diode vibrates and kicks out DC power out the other end. So you have AC, alternating current, coming in with the radio wave. Goes down the antenna, vibrates down the antenna, into the diode. The diode vibrates and puts out DC. AC to DC. NASA wireless power. Search on my channel because you won't find it if you search it on YouTube. It's been blocked. And here's the experiment where they used a 500,000 watt radar, just a portion of it. They used 40,000 watts of a 500,000 watt radar to transmit across to this array on that tower. And that array on that tower, that white array up there, is a bunch of small antennas, small microwave antennas, like in your cell phone. And here they are manufacturing them in the Raytheon labs back in the 70s. But they're the length of a standard cell phone antenna. Now, in this housing, these are the antennas. They go down through a ceramic insulator, and in there is the gallium arsenide diode. The diode vibrates and puts out DC out the other end. And it's more efficient than using a wire, they found. That They were able to transmit 40,000 watts across this huge gap, this multi-mile distance, and light up these lights on the other end directly just using the microwaves from the dish. Microwaves hit the antennas, and it vibrates back into power. Now, why does this matter? VLF. Why couldn't you do the same thing with a VLF antenna? Absorb the radio waves in the ground. Alleviate an earthquake, so to speak. The lack of earthquakes is suspicious either at reporting level or at a technical level. Or at a Mother Nature level. But I don't know about Mother Nature stopping earthquakes. I just don't know. That to me gets a little odd. I would either lean towards lack of reporting or some kind of system of suppression. If the earthquakes have stopped, large earthquake-wise, then we are building towards a very large earthquake. Here, the West Pacific, centered between our sets of deeps, that would be phenomenal, huge earthquake. I'm not issuing a forecast for that. It's an if situation. I don't have... When was the last time I had to come on and make a video and tell you there's no earthquakes to talk about for the last several weeks? It's been 12 years of me reporting on earthquakes. So, what's going on earthquake-wise in the United States? How about nothing but threes? Only threes across the plate. And the spots where there were threes, they were originally fours. The USGS downgraded each earthquake to be a 3. So this came in at a 4-something, this came in at a 4-something, this came in at a 4-something, this came in at a 4-something down in Texas. All came in at 4-something, and they downgraded them down to all 3s. So was it a bunch of 4s across the plate, or is it a bunch of small earthquakes? 4s are significant, 3s are just small. What's the difference? Difference of tenfold in power. So let's go look up the 3s, see what's there. Meanwhile, the plate's shifting, we're getting fires, we're getting all sorts of weird stuff going on. All sorts of weird stuff, not counting the weather, which I haven't even talked about. So here's the San Andreas Fault. You see this diagonal line here on the screen, and mountains themselves. And you'll see right next to it, I've got a few place marks. Let's go and see what we're looking at. They're marked as frac wells. See these tanks with the pipelines? Tank there and a tank there and a pipeline there. Okay, those are drill points for oil and gas. Right along the San Andreas. I don't know how smart it is to do that. You see over to the east, we have several more going across this valley. They're out here in the desert. And we've even got the shadow of the jack of the pump here for you to see that we're dealing with oil, most likely oil, right along the San Andreas. So, earthquake right next to the drill points. And that's where we go down to with the biggest of the bunch that was a 4 that they downgraded to be less. Now look, here's the other 4 over in Toya, Texas, and they took it down to a 3.2. Let's go to the origin page. In case you don't believe me about it being a 4, go down, scroll down the list. Throw out the high end, throw out the low. Oh, wow, hold on. Make a liar out of me, right? Local magnitude list only shows up to 3.5. What happened there? 2s? We went and looked at that when it got reported, guys. There were 4s all over the list. They reduced the number of stations. I can't believe it. It's like layer upon layer of onions of lies. Okay, here we are. Here's our earthquake epicenter, and there is no lie on this. Take a look. Tanks, pumps, jacks, pipelines, drill points. Oil and gas. And we all know Texas is known for its drill points. So it shouldn't be a shock that we're next to some here on the edge of the craton. Once we get over to the west, you'll see they somewhat putter out and stop. But geez, over to the east, take a look. Take a look at that. These are all drill points. And they just lay the pipeline out on the ground. You see that? They really do. It'll go onto the road, but they'll lay it out so that they can easily keep track. And if there is a spill or a break, they can easily clean it up, just scoop out the surface. As underground, you wouldn't know for a while till it came up. Anyway, all of these are drill points. You get the idea. There's millions of them across this area. A whole Texas county drilled looks like this. Here's what a regular town looks like. And here's what the drill points around it look like. So we could go on and on and on, but once we get over here to the earthquake, that's where they stop. The drill points, I mean. Once you get beyond over here, there's next to none. So that's where the drill points start. That's where the earthquake went down to. So hold up. We're next to a drill point here with that, 3.2. We're next to a drill point here with that, 3.2. What about up in Idaho? Challis, Idaho. Well, there's a story on Challis, a couple stories. One, a 5-point-something earthquake struck up here. When I reported on it, people told me it was normal, happens all the time. But then another 5.0 earthquake struck up here. And the USGS and Idaho, University of Idaho, I think, announced that they were sending up new sensors to be installed because a researcher, she was going up there to do some other research. And so just because she was going up there, she was going to take the stuff and install it to go monitor. Not because anything weird was going on up there or anything. But then within 6 months of the researcher going up there to install the new sensors and the two 5.0 earthquakes, a news story broke out of the Challis Reserve, warning people who live in the area, as well as tourists, not to just jump into temperate springs anymore along the rivers. People would go get into the temperate spring, not the hot springs, temperate spring, where it's slightly warm along the river. Go in with their dogs and their family and go jump in, and it's along a river. Anyway, a guy went out with his dogs, and the dogs went and jumped into the spot where they normally always jump in, and instead of it being temperate, it was boiling. The guy heard his dogs, and he jumped in after him to save them. He lost the dogs and almost lost his own life because the temperate spring that they normally jump into was extremely ultra scalding, boiling hot. And the official story was that it was due to lack of water in the river. Everything's normal. Lack of water in the... There's a local that normally goes there all the time. You'd think he'd notice that lack of water in the river? You got to be kidding me, man. So the guy gets basically, like in the movie Dante's Peak, right? And the two 5.0 earthquakes that struck there and the new equipment that got installed up there. Now, Yellowstone's right here. Why would they go over here below the Challis Reserve? Well, I found out something. The Challis Reserve is directly above the deepest part of the biggest part of the Yellowstone magma chamber. The Yellowstone magma chamber comes up to the surface at Yellowstone, and it goes down at an angle, down below Idaho, and has a feeder from all the way over here, Washington-Oregon border. And so this is the center of the biggest and deepest part of the Yellowstone magma chamber. And up above it, we're getting earthquakes, outbreaks of heat, and now fires further up to the north following the edge of the craton up into Alberta, going up into BC. All of this burning where there's oil and gas pumping operations as well, by the way. So the only earthquake of significant size, 3.0, that I haven't looked up yet is out here on the coast. What's out here on the coast? The Juan de Fuca fracture zone. It's a lightning bolt-shaped fracture zone out here in the ocean. Zigzag shape there. Here's our earthquake epicenter at an undersea mount volcano that has no name on it. However, the Greater North Gorda Ridge segment is named that, so I guess you would just call it part of the North Gorda Ridge segment. But there's a series of these, so it's not just one. And the earthquake is quite literally right next to the undersea mount crater here, which is poorly imaged, but you can see the round nature on that. You see what the other ones look like that are a little better imaged. At an undersea mount volcano there on the edge of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone, North Gorda Ridge segment, volcanic segment. So volcano, drill point, San Andreas, volcano above the magma chamber at Yellowstone, and drill point down in Texas. That's what struck in the past 48 hours, significant earthquake-wise. Let's go down and look at the 2s and 1s, turn off all the magnitudes really quick, get an idea of what's hit. Well, how about this? No 0s, 1s, 2s, or 3s at all in Washington and Oregon. Earthquake immune. Meanwhile, all of Yellowstone's starting to swarm out and pool up around the park, going north up into Montana. Interesting. No earthquakes across the most active earthquake zone on the West Coast. Meanwhile, Yellowstone lights up with a 3 in a swarm. I wonder if that's due to lack of reporting of earthquakes up in Washington and Oregon. I mean, how could you go 2 days without even a 0? Right? Maybe it's a power outage. Maybe they need to check their router. Yeah, that's it. Of course. Dude, of course. Somebody get a message to the University of Washington and the University of Oregon and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Guys, check your router. Now down to the south we go, and where they're not having router issues, but the earthquakes are being rerouted over to the east, down across several volcanoes. Let's start up to the north, up at Mount Hebron, California. What a name, right? Let's go look and see what is at the epicenter, if there is anything worth mentioning nearby. Goose Nest Mountain Volcano. The Goose Nest Shield Volcano and Summit Pyroclastic Cone were considered by Williams to be Holocene age, but Miller came along in 89 and made it older, the Pleistocene. Well, I'll tell you what, there sure is a lack of tree coverage on this thing to be Pleistocene age, wouldn't you say, Mr. Miller? How about the rest of these? Look at all of them. Now they go back up to the Greater Stratovolcano here. That's Mount Shasta. I almost called it Mount Lassen. Mount Shasta. So Goose Nest is really a smaller shield volcano on the side of Mount Shasta volcanic field. The earthquake's on the side of Goose Nest, which is on the side of Mount Shasta. Okay. Let's go down to the south. Almanor, California. Almanor. The foot of Mount Lassen. Now we can say Lassen correctly because we're going to the foot of another stratovolcano, or the side of, the flank of. Here's Lassen. Here's Mount Lassen Volcanic Field, Sifford Mountain, Mount Harkness, and the earthquake in the middle of Lake Almanor right next to it. So come on, man. How many is that? Yellowstone and all those over to the east. Down to the south we go, out in the ocean. Drill points down to the south. And volcano. Well, do we keep going? I guess is the question. So, if we keep going down to the east-southeast, there's a stack of earthquakes in between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. There's something at Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. A volcanic feature. A giant supervolcano is here. Giant oval caldera. This thing is lined with its own volcanoes. It gets hit with earthquakes that go around the outside edge, and it has a large geothermal field on the south and north side. Geothermal field for Steamboat Springs is here on the south side. Look at all those turbines for the steam. And on the north side, we have the Needles at Pyramid Lake. On the north side of Pyramid Lake, Geyser Field. And they're about the same distance on either side of this. The ancient supervolcano that the professionals missed also has two folded basins on either side. So that's 3 now. In California alone. 1, 2, 3. Going down to the volcano. Volcano. Let's go down into the valley. Go see what's going on down here in the Central Valley. We have a 2.0 earthquake at Mariposa, or 2.1, at Mariposa, California. All right, paste and search. Mariposa, California. What's there? How about that fire that I showed you the other day? The one that was right up here. It's just chance, right? Well, what about this thing? This large circular shape. It's called a laccolith. A laccolith forms when magma bulges in but never erupts, or doesn't normally erupt. It pushes the whole section of the plate up above it as magma intrudes. This one's huge. We keep getting fires all the way around the outside edge of this thing, and earthquakes around the outside edge of this thing, which is how I even noticed it. Now check it out. This thing, this laccolith, is directly across from the known supervolcano, Long Valley Caldera, with its 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt down below. So, it's being fed by a feeder from down below that's bulging on one side and erupted on the other. I noticed this because of earthquakes and fires around it. Nobody else has noticed this. All the professionals missed it. There's another one right here at Shaver Lake, going up to the north, up to Shaver Lake. This one is also a laccolith, and there's another one that's collapsed a little bit further down to the south right here. This one's collapsed in the past at some point. There's 3 of them. Okay, 1, 2 at Shaver Lake, 3 down to the south, the collapsed one. Anyway, our earthquakes go down to the south, and guess where else we go? We go over to that supervolcano that I just told you about, the one that they have confirmed. We also go across the border and down to the south along the California-Nevada border. So do I need to show you the supervolcano here that I just showed you a second ago? Long Valley? Probably not. But across the border and down to the south, I probably should show you what's there. So, let's go look. Nevada. And that's a good way to report the quake. Where's the earthquake? Nevada. In general, just Nevada. Doesn't matter. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Buttes. Yet again. And we're right here at the old... Okay, this gets in. Okay, now we're going to get into... We're going to go about to go off the rails here in about 2 seconds if I don't watch out what I start talking about. Right through here, over to here, are some old abandoned quarries from a very long time ago. You see, these guys got out here with horses and buggies, and some pickaxes, and they started quarrying this out back in the 1700s. And, And here's the other one that's even older. Back in this, the Spanish got out here. The Spanish came in. They were looking for the lost city of gold. And they started digging. They didn't find it. So they piled up all those pilings there. They used the horses to take that and make their own mountain that's 5,000 feet high. I would suggest over in the UK, if you want to make a mountain, just do that. Your lack of tall 5,000 foot high mountains, you can just build one, Just like the Spanish did back in the 1600s. Oh, never mind. Let's go down to the south. Silver Peak, Nevada. See, now this one's very specific. Whereas the other one just said, Nevada, don't pay attention to the old quarries there. This one says, let's go see what's there. Silver Peak. Is there silver in the hills here? Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. But I know right to the south is a large volcanic field called the Ube Craters. Ube Craters go out over to the west, over to the east, and up to the north. But the main attraction, the main feature, are the craters here, the blast craters, and on the north side of there, we keep getting a bunch of quakes. So I look out in here and I wonder, oh wait, I don't wonder, I know there are other unmarked volcanic features which are out here in the desert that either haven't been researched or named. Go plant your flag on that. Don't do that, by the way, it's a little dangerous. But if you were to go plant your flag on that, you can name it. Same with this one. Now that might have a hill name to it on a map somewhere, but nobody's identified it as a volcano, even though it is an old fissure or spatter cone, and that's what that earthquake is next to on the north side of Ube Crater. So how many is this now? It's like all of them, basically. Let's go down to the south. At least all of them along the California-Nevada border, I mean. So let's go down to Beatty, Nevada. Is this it a volcano? Well, yes and no. If you're a new viewer, take a look at the screen. Well, there are volcanoes here. See that? It's called Skull Mountain Volcanic Butte. What a name, right? Crater Flats is right there. But this is Doomtown. This is Operation Rise Line's location. This is where they did all the above and below ground nuclear tests, at least in Nevada. So there, going through the valley here, all of these are underground nuke sites. U.S. nuke Operation Harkey, May 17th, 63, undisclosed kilotons, right? U.S. nuke Operation Matico, June 14th. Oh, wow, today. Ooh, that's weird. June 14th, 1963. 60 years ago today. A 20.3, or is that 200? It's probably 20.3. 20.3 kiloton. Wow. That's weird. Well, we've got a swarm going there. It's not a sign of earthquake, or it's not a sign of natural earthquakes there. Those are man-made faults as the wave is passing through this area. The wave that's going through all these volcanoes is also going to seek out the weak points man creates. Hence the drill points. The drill points, like for oil and gas. What's going on over in Utah? Beaver, Utah. Okay, let's go see. Beaver, Utah. So far, all these locations have a reason to have earthquakes there. There's a volcano there, and there's a very low frequency wave passing through them. What's that? I don't know what that is. It's at the end of an airstrip. Uh-oh. Pipeline? Why would they have pipeline at an airport? Do they have oil and gas or geothermal or something going on out here that I don't know about? Kind of weird pipeline going on at an airport. That's weird. Okay, let's see what else is nearby. Unmarked volcano Crater Knoll is on the north side. Crater Knoll, unmarked. No Smithsonian on it. Ignored by the professionals. Look at it. Completely ignored. There's not even a pathway going up to the top. Nobody even goes, oh wait, there's one right there. No, that's going to a mining location? Are you serious? Somebody's mining it. Go stake your claim up on the side, right? Jeez. Where's this? Utah? Okay. Cinder Crater on the edge of Mineral Mountains Cove Fort volcanic field. You have Crater Knoll and a basalt fissure. The earthquake is right next to it on the south side. Anybody want to go camping? We could get some geothermal up in there. It's nice and warm. Camp in the middle of the crater. Nobody even knows it's there. Let's go over to the east. Mount Pleasant. What's over at Mount Pleasant? Is it pleasant? It might be. This is where John Levi is from. He's a researcher in the Tartarian area. He's like from somewhere up in here. He was showing it. That's the only reason I know is he zoomed in on it, and he was talking about this area here. I thought, oh, wow, he lives right there. Well, right here is one of the most drilled areas in Utah for oil and gas. Here's a gas-fired power plant. And on the edge of it is oil and gas drilling. And it goes out and up into hundreds of drill points out here in the back country. And it goes across here where there's hundreds of more. It goes across the mountains where there's hundreds of more. And it carries on through the mountains. Do you see it? Well, here, hold on. Do you see it now? How about now? Look how many there are there, right? 4 jacks just at one site. We go through the mountains. We go over the hills and through the woods. There we go. And look how many there are. all these little white specks on the ground are different drill points. I call this insane overdrive when you got that many, where it looks almost natural, where they look like sand dunes or something. And then you go across the fields where it gets a little bit more organized, and it literally goes across the fields. I'm not kidding, like through the farm fields to the other side of the valley, back around, back down, through the river. It literally goes through the river, too. I'm not kidding. Look, here's the river. Here's the drill point, right on the side. And you'll say, oh, Dutch, that's above the area. Yeah, right. Sure, whatever you guys say. Whatever you say, Jeeves. I'm just here showing you. Okay. Is that enough, or should we carry on over to the east? Should I show you the earthquakes in Oklahoma and Texas? I already showed you Texas. Never mind. Let's go over to Oklahoma. Fairmount, Oklahoma. Then we're going to go down to Southern California. We're not done yet. I haven't done an update in 6 days, so we're kind of covering all the bases. I haven't shown you the storms yet. Weather modification out the you-know-what. I'm talking next-level frequency-induced directed energy weapon. They certainly have some kind of weather manipulation weapon that's producing storms, guys. So, here, we'll get into that at the end of the update. So, here are more drill points here in Oklahoma for oil and gas. Here's our earthquake epicenter. Here's the nearest drill points are all the way around the entire area. That's Oklahoma. All of these are drill points in Oklahoma. All of these are drill points in Texas. And then we get back over here and we're at drill points in north central Utah, volcanoes down in southwest Utah, nuke spots in South Nevada, volcano, Lackalith, volcano, and volcano, all the way back up to the north part of California. Again, I'll talk about the coast in a second, and Southern California in a second. Drill point, and then we get to the New Madrid seismic zone, where there are no drill points. There's something else here, though. Oh, wow, look, it's not listed as New Madrid, Missouri. I wonder why. I wonder why the USGS would just list it as Missouri instead of the town of New Madrid, which is where the earthquake is. Here's the earthquake epicenter, and here is the town of New Madrid. Here's Portageville, Missouri. So in case you're thinking there might not be any nearby towns, Portageville is the larger town in southern Missouri. Here's the town of New Madrid, the famous town of New Madrid, Missouri. Interesting, right? So an earthquake here, marked as Missouri, not telling us what's at the earthquake epicenter. Well, let's zoom in and see. Looks like we have a little bit of quarrying going on at the spot, which is a little odd. There's also a few other things right across the river, like Reelfoot Lake that formed when the New Madrid collapsed. There's also some other things here that are worth mentioning that I have shown before, like a 6 mile by 9 mile long star fort made out of foothills, thousands of feet high, 1,000 feet high. 800 to 1,000 feet high star fort there at the edge of the New Madrid seismic zone. So we get earthquakes there, and they just list them as Missouri. It's a little weird. A little odd. It's almost like they don't want the people to know that there's an earthquake at the town of New Madrid. They're worried people will panic. But if they're worried people are going to panic, there might be something for us to panic about. I don't know, when we get over here, for instance, over into Tennessee. We're right next to Flat Rock Point Pigeon Mountain Volcano, and we're right next to some high voltage power lines. But we're also on the edge of the craton. What is this? Oh, another set of high voltage power lines. Whole bunch of them. Set of 3. Now, if you don't know about the VLF, very low frequency, high voltage power connection, I've already explained VLF in somewhat of a detail in this update, but we're at 2 junction points of a trunk, 2 trunks that come together, and where they make a split. Now, I've talked about this for years now, about the earthquakes next to the large high voltage power lines.
not the kind that just go to your house. So I want to trace this back and just see where this goes. Oh, look, it goes right back to the giant hydroelectric dam right next to the earthquake epicenter. I've talked about the hydroelectric dams and the power generation facilities as the spots as being the source of the VLF that's transmitted out via the lines. We see the earthquakes along the lines and below the power plants. And I've said this for years. That's where the earthquake is, over in Tennessee. So, Tennessee, interesting. Next to high voltage power lines. New Madrid, just listed as Missouri, completely ignored. Next to the Star Fort, next to New Madrid. But nothing really there except for the New Madrid seismic zone itself. I would only call those the only two natural earthquakes out of the bunch. The rest are over at drill points, back to volcanoes and drill points, then volcano, back up to the north, where we have our other cluster of earthquakes at Yellowstone. So going down along the coast of California, what's up here? What's with this big stack of earthquakes at Cobb, California? Well, depending on which earthquake you click on, it will tell you what's there. See? I clicked on another earthquake right there, and it told me. The geysers of California are there. Another volcano, but this one's along the coast, and there's a reason for there being a big cluster there, other than it just being a volcano. Humans have drilled in here at this volcano to get steam to take to these pipelines that go up to these turbines. And the turbines provide power to the area. And this is the volcanic field, Geyser Peak and Clear Lake Volcanic Field, Mount Canocti, and Geyserville, California. That's where the stack is. Interesting. Let's go down to the south to the Bay Area. Black Point, Green Point, California, literally on the north side of San Francisco. Is there anything here? Inquiring minds want to know. So do I, so let's go find out. Do I have an inquiring mind? Looks like we got a harbor. Looks like we have nothing. Is there literally nothing here? Wait, what's that? What is this? The hell is this place? A drag strip? Really? Okay, hold on. Now you guys know, I've told you in the past, the racetracks, the power supplies, and the Star Forts. Star Fort, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. And the Star Fort and racetrack thing, they did it next to Cahokia Mounds here in St. Louis. Oh, and the airports. That's the other thing. So we have golf course, Star Forts, racetracks, and airports. Where's the Star Fort? Where is it? It's got to be in here somewhere. I'm not going to try and find it now. I'm just going to tell you right now. When I see them all together like that, okay, there's definitely a Star Fort here somewhere that's being hidden. Oh, another airport. Airport. Oh, man. Earthquake down below it, power station on the other side. Literally power station right there. Refinery right across. Refinery goes out across over to here where we have the naval shipyards. Oh, God. Well, I got to look them up. Yountville, California. Let's go see. Too many, guys. Too many. Seriously. Too many airports, too many things right there. I'll find it. I will. I'll find whatever Star Fort is there. I'll have to come back and inspect. Okay, what do we got going on here? Houses, of course, aren't they? Is that what it looks like? I don't know. It seems like a lot of equipment right there. What the hell? Okay, that's multiple times where I'm asking WTH in one update. Starting to get a little worried. Okay, do we have any? Oh, okay, all right. Now, again, this takes me back a little bit. So we had a significant sized earthquake which struck here. And let me show you. I'm going to turn off all of our place marks, labels. I just turned us due south. Flipped us upside down, basically. So we go back. We have to go back several months. And we got an earthquake right up here, down below this, where there's now a development going on. And when I zoomed in on this, I noticed something about the area. And I measured it just to make sure, to see if there was something weird going on with the dimensions of this, coming from back here, going to up here, coming like an arrowhead shape. Now this shape that we're seeing here is seen elsewhere on the planet in the giant star-formed shape that's way bigger than anything that humans could have ever built. And it's indisputable that that's in the shape, and I've done a video on this before up here at the pinnacle tip when the earthquake struck down below the pinnacle tip, which is what drew my eye to it to begin with. Now, before you're saying I do some kind of pareidolia or that I'm seeing things with that, I can show you other examples, and I've made a whole video on it. So there you go. I'm not going to do that now. As we go down to the south, I already showed you the 3.2 next to the frac wells, which are right along the San Andreas Fault. There's only a few more earthquakes that extend out from there down to Parkfield and over to the coast. 2 on Parkfield, 2 over at the coast. Down at the south tip of the valley, we'll look those up as well. Why are we going down to Parkfield and stopping and then picking back up down at the south tip of the valley? Why do we have the same sized earthquakes pretty much up here at Parkfield in the creeping section that we do down here at the south tip of the valley? Well, when you get down to Parkfield and you get down to the south tip of the valley, there's something that both locations have in common. Let me show you. We're going to go back over here to the west coast of the United States. We're going to go down to Parkfield. Here's Parkfield. And the earthquakes get down here, and they stop. But then they pick back up down at the south tip of the valley, like I told you, down here. So why do we stop here and pick back up here? Well, right next to where we stop at Parkfield, you go over to the east, you're going to see a bunch of these. Oil and gas wells. And a lot of them, hundreds of them to start, right up here at the north side. And then we go into thousands and tens of thousands as we go further down to the south. This is where our drill points start. So the earthquakes come down to where the drill points start. Then they pick back up down at the south tip of the valley down here. That's what we have down here with the 2.4, for instance, down at the southeast tip of the valley. Right down here. So what's down here? Well, it's not a quarry blast. You'll see, marked out into the fields, are more oil wells. Now, you get the idea. We come down the San Andreas with a wave. We get to where the drill points start. The wave jumps off. Follows a path of least resistance to the perforation points. And then, guided down to the east-southeast, picks back up down here, hits into the Garlock Fault, and picks back up with earthquakes that go down to the east, bypassing usually LA and sticking on the east side of LA, then going down to the south across the San Jacinto and dead-ending down into the south tip of California, going into the Mexico border, which is the Imperial Fault. We go on the left side or the west side of Salton Sea Volcano. But down here at the border, we dead-end into something else. Let me show you what we dead-end into down at the Mexico border. As if this wasn't all enough. So we bypass the LA basin when that happens. I think they did this on purpose. Bypassing? Come on, drilling that much? They had to have known. So I told you there's something down here at Holtville. And there is. Well, there's a few things. See all these? Geothermal turbines, pipelines that go out to drill points for the steam from the volcano that's here. Right here. Salton Buttes and the magma chamber below it. But going down to the border, there's also something else here nearby that we have to mention. A huge amount of electrical generation. These are all solar panels. They've replaced regular farming with solar farming. I suppose there's more money to be made. Right? Farmers there just rip out their field and put in a solar farm. Make how much money do you think that's making right there? I mean, that's got to be how many megawatts of energy are being generated? VLF coming out from there. So over by Holtville, more drill points, and this is also where the boiling mud pots shifted last year, or no, 2 years ago. Boiling mud pots shifted just to the east of here out in the desert. Somewhere over here where the earthquakes are. Down into Mexico, it putters out. We get down into twos. This goes down Alberto Oviedo Mota. Mota? What? Hold on. Now, hey, just 1 second. Okay, let me show you something. Down here in Mexico, we have the same thing, another laccolith. See this? See this one right here? There's a bunch of them. These are bulging laccoliths that go down to the south. They're huge circular features that are in the actual, here's another one right here. El Penal. You see it? It bulges to the center by like 400 feet high. 400 feet higher than the area around it. Anyway, these bulging laccoliths go down to the south throughout the whole peninsula where they've erupted in the past into volcanic fields like this. But anyway, up on the north side, fires, laccoliths, and earthquakes. So let's recap. Mexico, laccolith, bulging magma chamber. Here, next to geothermal drill point for volcano. Then we go through the San Jacinto, which is just nothing but fault zones all the way across. There are diagonal lines of quakes going across them. So there's no drill points here. There's no volcanoes here. That's all fault zone movement east of LA. Once we get back up here to the north, we go back to our drill points here at the south tip of the valley. And volcanoes, which I did not show you over next to Ridgecrest. Which, if I need to, it'll be the only spot I didn't show you. Hold on, there'll be some new person here. It's like, there's no volcanoes there. Oh yeah? Line of earthquakes going across right here. See all this black stuff? That's lava. Hardened lava. Tuftage. Igneous rock. Here's our old volcanoes, and here's our ones that are going to erupt in the future. Okay? So that's all these. Anyway, I showed them all to you now. We looked them all up. We did not look up the quarry blast up here on the north side in Canada. That's the only one I did not look up. Oh, wow. So what's causing it all? Well, I don't know. Look, guys, it looks like the plate's shifting. But with the lack of large earthquakes, I'm getting suspicious that we're building into an extremely large earthquake over in the West Pacific, where it's radio silence. The same could be said for over in Europe and Asia. Where are your earthquakes? Italy, where are your earthquakes? South Europe, Greece, where are your earthquakes? Turkey, where are your earthquakes? You tell me it's normal to get a bunch of 2s and 3s and that's it? A few 4s? Weeks and weeks on end, nothing? Dude. I wish I had an answer for this. I wouldn't call this a forecast or anything. It's more of a gripe. What do? I have to show you the quakes and tell you I think something very strange is going on with the planet right now. What? I don't know. That's why I'm calling it very strange. Otherwise, I'd tell you what I thought it was. I know a few months ago they announced the inner core of the Earth had shifted rotating or something. Could be that. The fires. The denials. Now, finally, I've already talked about the smoke. One final thing I'd like to point out is the radar. This 4-storm thing we got going on here is a little weird. 4 storms here, 4 storms there, forming into 4 more, which form into 4 more, which form into 4 more. It's getting weird, man. It's getting freaky, man. Don't know what to tell you. I guess it's natural. You have to look for it. You're going to have to look for this. So as the storms are forming, small and large, over large areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, across a whole area, a whole region of the U.S., and then you'll zoom in on the storm, and you'll see that that storm's made up of 4 cells. So what do? Launch some kind of space-based or plane-based or ground-based system that generates 4 storms at a time? Maybe it's 4 transmitters on a satellite. I don't have an answer for you on that either. I'm just telling you it's not natural. I've been documenting it now, and it's not natural. You don't just get 4 storms forming here and there everywhere all the time. That is odd. So that being said, how do you look? I'm looking on either... here's an example. Wait, this is the current image. This is just the current one. How could I know, right? 4 huge cells across the south right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just count them out with your mouth. The 4 red cells. Like, what the hell's going on? Same with over here on the west coast. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 orange. Getting up into the bigger storm, if you were to go up into Canada, I'm just guessing, but it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's getting odd. And it's not pareidolia. You can't tell me it's natural when I told people to look out for this several days ago, and it happened again last night and today. Let's go and look throughout the day today. I did not look throughout the day today. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is again. In the center of the storm, in the center of the one single storm, you have the 4 cells. So, come on. And I'm not guessing. I'm literally told my viewers to look out for this. What can be used to manipulate the weather? Electromagnetic radiation. There's people who deny that, so let me show you. NOAA. Here it is. I'm taking you to library.noaa.gov, where companies in the past are required to report their weather modification activities. Companies. Now, the government doesn't have to do this, but the companies do. And I'd like to draw your attention to number 8 on the list of possible weather modification. Things which must be reported. Using lasers or other sources of electromagnetic radiation. Okay. Radio wave electromagnetic radiation. Radio waves are a type of electromagnetic radiation with the longest wavelength in the electromagnetic spectrum, typically with frequency of 300 megahertz and below. Once you get above that, you get up into microwave and so on. Start getting up into infrared and... Okay. So, electromagnetic radiation, radio waves, can be used to modify the weather because NOAA requires the reporting of it by private companies that used it. So if you're in denial, you're woefully ignorant, you're either a liar or you're uninformed. Calling you out now, whoever you are. Or step off, get out of here. Denial about electromagnetic. denial. Okay? Earthquake plan. Take shelter underneath a table or a desk. That's a given. Seek shelter. Don't get hit by things falling. Emergency kit. Short term, a bag. Change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, socks. Okay, those kind of things. Food and water. You need it. You need it long term anyways. You need a long-term supply of food and water. Do not trust or rely on other people or that you'll be able to go to the store and get it or anything. You need a long-term supply, several years worth. Long-term supply food. It's called preparation, and people make fun of you for it. And the people who make fun of you for it, all of them don't have any preparations. Go check their houses and ask them. So the people who make fun of you for preparing and say, oh, you don't need that kind of stuff, say, do you have it? And they'll say, no. And you'll say, okay, all right, just checking. And if they're telling you not to have it and they respond and go, oh, yeah, I've got all that stuff, then you'll know that they're, trying to discourage you from preparing while they themselves are stocking up. That would be evil on their part, wouldn't it? So this update started out a little fiery and it ends a little fiery. But guys, I'm dealing with a group of people in cognitive dissonance. People in denial that the pot is getting hot. The frog in the pot syndrome, right? The frog does not notice as you gradually introduce more heat. It heats up along with the pot until it gets boiling, right? Supposedly. Don't do this. Don't be cruel to animals. But I'm going to tell you, the pot is getting hot. And anybody denying that is doing the ostrich thing, or they're getting paid to do it, or they're made to do it by their government or something. Or they're an AI bot, some kind of AI program designed to do it. Downplaying and denying is the last thing you want to do to me. You can do it to yourselves all you want in your little comment sections here and there. But you go come into my community page and you come to my videos, dude. You might be new here. Maybe you're a firm that's just been hired by Canadian government or some shit. I don't know. You'll find out. It's called the Dutch Sense Effect. It's like Streisand, but on acid. All right? Much love, everyone. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And I will be back, hopefully, if anything else goes down.